when it comes to our bodies, how our childhood and how the ways that we have been conditioned unconsciously, subconsciously by the environments that we were around, the way that our caregivers talk to us, right? So the way that our caregivers talk to us, but also the way they talk to themselves. Okay, so think about it. If you grew up in a house where you heard your mom or somebody, your dad, somebody, your older sibling, right? Any kind of adult figure saying, "Oh, I shouldn't eat that. I'll gain weight," or "This is I need to lose a few pounds," or talking to yourself in a way that connects eating with a negative consequence that's going to impact your weight, and then energetically you sense that that consequence will create a negative life situation where you're going to feel bad in life, right? Like, so as a kid, all you feel and all you absorb is, oh, this is this and this. If you do this, you're going to get this, and this is bad. That's all we really can absorb. But we can connect that, oh, if I have this food, oh, this, eating this isn't great because then I'm going to gain weight here. And then gaining weight leads to this negative thing. Okay. So as children, we absorb these messages, even if they weren't directed directly at us. We pick up on the self-criticism, we pick up on the judgment, we pick up on the fear of the food, or the connecting, the codependent relationship with food, the connecting the food to a consequence, kind of ignoring the nuance, and then that consequence being something that is going to lead to a negative experience in life, right? We pick up on that. And so it's like we inherit this mirror of how our caregivers or adult figures viewed themselves, and suddenly we're not just learning how to eat, right? It's not just about food in front of us. We're taking in a narrative, we're taking in a dynamic, an emotional dynamic of how to feel about eating and how to feel about ourselves. And without awareness, right? Without this willingness to look at these patterns that seem normal. I can't tell you how many clients I have that tell me stories in our sessions like it's like a normal, this is the way it is, and I have to stop them and be like, that's not, like, you could pause there, like you could rewire that pathway, actually. And they're like, no, but that's how it is. I'm like, no, that's how it has been taught to you, and that's what you've been doing, but that's not how it is. There's a space here for you to redirect where this is going to go emotionally for you. I mean, it requires you to look critically at the pattern and say, oh, this isn't etched in stone. This is something that's just been kneaded in for a while, right? So it requires you to have to be curious, to be critical thinker, right? Not a critic, but a critical thinker, and then be willing to provide a compassionate lens to the situation, and then take on the responsibility, which is, can be difficult, which is the work we do here, the work I do with everybody in my coaching programs with my clients, to realize that it is our responsibility to repattern and rewire and heal some of those unhealthy and unskillful narratives and dynamics. And if we don't, we carry these associations with us for decades, right? We can carry them for years, for decades. It can impact our self-esteem, our self-worth, our potential fullness of life without realizing it, right? It can influence and make its way into all these different ways that we show up in the world. And before we know it, we end up exploiting food as our coping mechanism. We turn into adults who overeat when we're stressed, or feel guilty after indulging in something delicious, or something heavy. We go back to where we were as kids, where we disassociate ourselves from the experience because we're thinking about the consequences, right? We find ourselves hoarding. So we find ourselves hoarding snacks, binging, right? Like compulsively, urgently eating, going back to that scarcity narrative, right? Like, oh my God, I might not have this again, right? It's like unconscious. Like, why are we eating so much of this? We have the bag here, but it's unconscious until you make it conscious. And so if you've ever felt like food controls you, if you ever felt like you don't understand your hunger cues, your fullness cues, or food is a source of anxiety or guilt, I want you to know this, that you're not alone, right? You're not alone. There are hundreds of people that listen to this podcast that can tell you you're not alone.